Hi, welcome again to my channel. My name is Olajumoke Additional. Today I'll be talking about alopecia. In my first video, I talked about natural hair and self-confidence. This afternoon, I'm going to be sharing with you about alopecia. And the reason why I chose that topic is because so many people are suffering from alopecia, and there are so many different kinds of alopecia that people do not even know about, I've heard so many people telling me that, oh, I use so many hair growth products and it's not really working for my hair. And when I start to talk to them, I realize that they either suffering from one form or another type of alopecia that they are unaware about. So again, I welcome you to my channel. If you're watching me this afternoon, I am based in New York. I'm a licensed cosmetologist. And I also own my own business, which is called All Things Natural. I use herbs to fix hair. That is what I do. I use herbs. Herbs are medicines that are given to us freely from the earth, and I use them to fix hair and skin problems. So once again, I welcome you to my channel. So briefly, we're going to be talking about alopecia. What is alopecia? Alopecia is just hair loss. That's just what it means. Alopecia means hair loss. So if you're losing your hair in different places and you're wondering what is going on, it is simply called alopecia. Now there are different kinds of alopecia. We have so many different types that sometimes arise due to different situations. But this afternoon, I'm going to be speaking mainly on traction alopecia. Have you ever seen somebody that is bald in the middle of their hair, or they are bald on one side of their hair, or all of their edges is just gone and is shining and bald? I have seen so many instances of alopecia, and I cannot but just laugh. And I even make jest of my own self, because alopecia is something that I have suffered from. And I remember that when I started balding, it was ridiculous to me, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it because I had just had a baby. And for me, when I started doing my research, I realized that that was postpartum alopecia. But today we're going to be talking about traction alopecia. So if you're bald in one spot, maybe in the middle of your hair, at the back of your hair, or in front of your hair, just know that that is alopecia. And before you start passing judgments, it's better to check yourself, because 1 out of 5 Africans suffer from traction alopecia, and I also happen to be one of them. What is traction alopecia? Traction alopecia is just when somebody pulls on your hair too much and then your edges start falling off. The reason why your edges fall off is just because the edges of the hair, or the perimeter around the hair, is known to be very thin. And so if you apply any kind of force or too much pulling on it, it will normally break, because the hairs that grow on your edge, on the edges, they're quite different from the hair that grow in the middle of your hair or by the back of your hair. So traction alopecia comes into play when somebody is constantly braiding their hair, they're constantly on weaves, they're constantly wearing wigs, and they are constantly doing cornrows and all of that. That is what mostly causes traction alopecia. And like I said, it is very common among Africans. Common among Africans because when it comes to making our hair, when it comes to styling our hair, we come up with different styles. We have different ways of styling our hair. We do the braids, we do the cornrows, we do the weaves, and there's really nothing wrong with that, because there is beauty in doing different kind of things. Like, I get bored of just wearing my natural hair all of the time. And also, before I continue, I want to put out here that I am not into my natural hair 100%. Like I said, I am a New York State licensed cosmetologist. I am the founder of All Things Natural, and I use herbs to fix hair problems. But my YouTube channel is not advocating for people to wear their natural hair 100%. I want to put it out there that I encourage people to do whatever it is that they feel like doing. And for me, I have gone natural, but I don't carry my natural hair 100% of the time. I like to, you know, to be versatile. I like to do different things. So I'm just stating that, you know, so that we know. Like I was saying, I said traction alopecia always happen when we are constantly pulling on our hair, and we are always wearing wigs and wearing weaves and all of that. And it is common among Africans because, you know, we always want to do something different. Today we want to be on braids, tomorrow we want to be on weaves. And it's difficult for us to understand when our hair starts falling off. I know so many people, I have so many friends that, you know, they've lost their hair and they cannot seem to, you know, to just get over the reason why their hair or their edges would be falling off. And I say to them, no matter how many hair growth oil or hair growth products that you use on the edges of your hair, traction alopecia is something that you have to deal with on your own. You have to stay away from the wigs, you have to stay away from the braids, you have to stay away from the cornrows, from everything that pulls on the edges of your hair. I suffered from postpartum alopecia when I had my son about 3 years ago, and I got out of that, you know, form of alopecia, and then again started experiencing traction alopecia. I was experiencing traction alopecia because I was constantly braiding my hair. It was always in weaves and it was always in different kind of style. So there was a lot of strain normally on my edges, and I started losing my edges. So when I became a cosmetologist and started doing my own research and making my own herbal product from home, I realized that even with the herbal products, I still had to take it easy on my edges. So sometimes I have the braids for maybe 2-3 weeks. I take it off and then I have my natural hair. Right now I just took out the braids that I had for 3 weeks, and I'm going to be rocking my natural hair for the next 2 months. And the reason why I'm going to be doing that is because I just need, you know, air. I just need fresh air on the edges of my hair. I just need to leave my hair out so that my edges can grow back. Even though I am using my hair growth oil, it is going to take a while because it is not magic. The hair on the edges, on the perimeter of our head, they are the thinnest form, you know, they are the thinnest of all the hairs that we have on our head. So when they fall off, it takes time for it to come back. And it is not just the herbal growth oil or any kind of growth oil products that will make the hair come back, because as long as you're using those oils, you're using all those hair growing products, and you're still braiding your hair tight, you're still wearing wigs 365 days in a year, those things are not going to work. So for traction alopecia, we need to stay away from the wigs, we need to stay away from the cornrows. Now when I say stay away, I don't mean that you totally stay away, because like I said, you know, carrying your natural hair might be boring. Like sometimes I find it so boring. I cannot cope with carrying my natural hair all of the times. I want to switch to something, you know, nice. So what I encourage people to do is that every time that you braid your hair, ask whoever is doing it to stay away from your edges. I am a New York State licensed cosmetologist, and every time that I braid people's hair, I try as much as possible to stay away from their edges. If I have any clients telling me, oh, you need to, you know, pinch all of my edges and you need to braid all, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. If you're not going to listen to me, then I'm sorry, you have to go find another person to make your hair. The reason that I leave people's edges out is because I don't want it to break. It takes a lot. Once your edges start falling out, there is no magic that makes it grow back within 3 months or 2 months. It is a work in progress. You need to stay away from the wig. So if you are wearing wig, make sure it's not something that you're doing all of the time. Don't make it too frequent. Occasionally you can put on wig. Occasionally, sometimes you can even braid. When you braid, just tell the braider to stay away from your edges, and the way they can stay away from your edges is just by pulling back on the hair a little bit all the way to the back, and then leaving the front. You know, you can leave it as a side pattern or a center part or whatever it is that you want to do. Very important, ask them to stay away from your edges. Number 2 way that you can, no, not number 2. I'm going to say some other style. One other style that I know that also damages people's hair is ponytail. So many people do the ponytail, and you know that the way, if you've ever done a ponytail, you know that the pulling of the hair all the way to the back, because you know when you're doing ponytail, it has to be tight before they apply the gel, and it has to be firm. All of that pulling kinds of affects your edges. So I need us to please stay away from pulling our hair in front. Like I said, 1 out of 5 Africans would suffer from traction alopecia. And the reason why we are going to suffer from that is because that we are always pulling on our hair. Our hair is always going into braids, into weaves, and into wigs. I know so many people that wear wigs 365 days in a year. It is not good. Yet they complain that they are losing their edges. You are going to lose your edges if you keep wearing wigs. The reason is that the bands by the wigs, or or the tightness, the way that the wig lays on your edges, it makes the hair to break, because the hair on your edges are very thin already. So applying more pressure on it will just make it, will just make all of your edges come out. So there's no amount of herbal product or hair growth product that you want to use that is going to make your hair to grow back. And also, once that hair is damaged, once your edges is damaged, it takes a lot of work for it to be able to come back. Unfortunately, people are looking for magic. Honestly, I know so many people that are looking for magic. Your edges has broken, you've bought a new product, and then you expect that product to work within 1 week. You expect to see result within 2 weeks. Let me put this out there. The good thing about herbal product is that because they are 100% organic, they are herbs, they are not chemicals, they work at a slower pace. So if you are not patient and you are not consistent in using herbal products, you will not see results. Herbal products are not magic. All those products that you bought, just the same way with every other thing in life, would require patience and will require consistency. So you have to be consistent in using what you're using. And if you're still braiding your hair 365 days in a year and still wearing the wigs every day and still pulling on your edges and using the growth oil or any other growth product, it's simply not going to work, because even for 3-4 months, if you see a little growth and then you go back to braiding your hair, then it's the same thing. It's like a circle. You're still going to come back to that cycle where you have lost all of your edges again. I know it is difficult, not to want to slay, like some of us always want to slay. So many people want to slay. There's nothing wrong with, there's nothing wrong in slaying, Everybody wants to slay and look beautiful in their wigs and in their cornrows and in their braids. There's nothing wrong with that. I also want to slay. So my only advice is that take a break. Don't do it all of the time, Braid your hair occasionally. When you braid it, tell them to stay away from your edges. Even for those of us that do weaves, even when you do the weaves, tell whoever is doing your weaves to please stay away from your edges. Your edges need to take a break. So if you're suffering from excessive hair loss in the perimeter of your hair, then I need you to understand that is traction alopecia. And traction alopecia is just too much pulling on your edges when you either braid or a weave or something like that. That is what causes traction alopecia. So it is something that we need to be aware of. It is something that as Africans and African Americans, we need to be aware of, And I also tell people, when you're staying away from your edges and when you decide that you want your edges to start growing back, don't just leave it like that. My last video, I was talking about how everything in life needs maintenance. Your hair needs maintenance. Black castor oil is a very good source of vitamin E. It is anti-inflammatory and it contains so many wonderful properties that can help with growing your hair. I always advise that I prefer the black castor oil because I feel like it's more powerful than just the ordinary normal castor oil, because it has, a high level of vitamin E. I will say that we can buy it from anywhere and use it over that particular spot. So that is just all that I'm going to be talking about today. Traction alopecia, I am putting it out there so that we can learn from it, so that we can know what we are suffering from. So many people are suffering from things that they don't know. I've seen so many bald spots that, even when I see it, I'm like, it's hilarious. I'm laughing because You know, I know of so many people that even their hair starts from all the way back, all of these spots, there's nothing there. And sometimes I look at it, I'm like, oh my God. And before I started experiencing it myself, trust me, I used to make jest of people. I see so many, you know, kinds of bald spot and receding hairlines. I'll be like, Jesus Christ, what happened, you know? But then as I started learning and started doing my research, I was quick to realize that, you know, it was another kind of alopecia, which was called traction alopecia. So I encourage us to please try and stay away from the too many ponytails, the dreadlocks, the braids, and all of those things that affect our edges as African Americans. And the reason why I feel like this is common among African Americans, I've said it, is because we braid our hair too much. There's so much pressure on our hair because we do not know how to carry or, you know, style our natural hair. So, and this is just one type of alopecia. There are so many different types of alopecia, and in my subsequent videos I'm going to be sharing with us the different kinds of alopecia. Before we start using treatments on our hair, which is what I'm trying to do, even though this is my channel and I've told you that I use herbs to fix hair problem and skin problem, I don't just want to be showing you how to use the herbs, but I want to, you know, to lay some foundations so that when I start teaching you how to use those herbs, you can understand what you're dealing with. Because there's so many different types of alopecia that, you know, even there has to be a specific way to attack the kind of alopecia that we're suffering from. So I hope that we have learned something this afternoon. Please feel free to comment, feel free to share. Most importantly, I encourage you to please subscribe to my video and follow me on Instagram. I have an Instagram page that I have put in my link. I also have a website. Feel free to reach out to me. I am open for questions. I am open for, you know, consultation. You know, I don't have any problem doing free consultations. I'm fine with doing free consultations. If you need to ask me any questions, please free to send me a message. And thank you so much for being with me this afternoon. I appreciate all of us, and God bless you, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. God bless you. I'll see you again.